It is, I think, January 11th. I have not picked this book up since we flew back on the 4th. The 4th. And today, it is time for me to start reading again. Because I've unpacked and I've gotten all my stuff together and I fixed my daughter's sleep schedule. Yes, I did. She got up at 9 a.m. today, and so did I, and I actually have energy, which is a miracle, guys. It's a freaking miracle, and I'm so excited. So it's time to get back into reading this. So let's do it. Boom. Boom, baby. I have feelings. So, as you guys can see, I am well over halfway through this book. I think I only have like 150 pages left. And I have more feelings to share with you all. So let's just get started. So when I had finished my last 100 pages, they were on their way to this inn. And they were going to Mancia to kind of figure out what was going on with the king of Mancia. Well, let's just start off with what happens at the inn. So I have a problem with the fact that these grown men at this inn really were after this like 14-year-old girl in the dining room, and then had the nerve to try and get back at Katza and Poe for stopping them from harassing this girl by giving them false information. They really deserve to be punched in the face, and I am so upset that Katza didn't punch them, and that Poe didn't allow her to, and that Poe didn't punch them because Katza didn't allow him to. Like, they called Katza a wild cat and said Poe was the only one that could control her. The wild ones were like the best ones, or something like that. Like, something really offensive. And as I was reading this, I was mad. I was so upset. Because, really? Like, really? Then they made a joke about the girl and were like, oh, it's too bad for locked doors and overprotective fathers. Like, no, it's not. It's a good thing because people like you exist. I'm glad that it's in this book because it happens in everyday life, and this is like a fantasy novel, and I'm just glad that sensitive topics and things that need to be discussed can still be included in novels that aren't necessarily contemporary. I'm glad that she included it. I am just upset that they weren't beat up, that Poe and Katza couldn't beat them up, and that they just let them go. Like, if it was me, I would have beat them to a pulp, and I would have made them regret what they did, and I would have made them think twice about doing it again. Because let's be honest, we know these men are going to leave, and they're going to probably do it again. But that's not the point of the story. That was just one part of the story that, like, upset me in these 100 pages I read. So, moving on from there, I thought that it was so funny and maddening how Katza and Poe realized that they were, like, in love with each other. It was just, like, it didn't happen the way I expected it to, and they were just, like, it was a really awkward exchange. And then Katza's just like, I can't have a husband, I can't have a husband. He's like, well, you could be, he basically says, but he doesn't say it, like, well, you could be my lover. And then she's like, a lover? Me? Could I be a lover and still be myself? And it's this whole weird, awkward thing. It's just so, it's so funny and so odd, and just like finally they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. Like we're gonna make love and get together. And it's funny because like I didn't think it involved that much thought essentially, but I guess it did. And I shipped them from the jump. You guys know this. I shipped them from the very beginning, and I knew they were gonna get together, but I forgot how it happened. Like I didn't remember this awkward exchange occurring at all. So that was a surprise to me, and it was funny and infuriating. So I was like, dude, just get together. Like, just be with him. Just accept him. Like, do it. You love him. Like, I don't understand why it's so difficult. But apparently it was for whatever reason. So yeah, that was interesting. And when they finally did get together, I was like, yes. I was so happy. It was just perfect. Speaking of that, and thinking back, Lek was discussed at the end, and they were saying that they thought he might be Grace, which I didn't remember them thinking prior to meeting him. Like I said, I remember bits and pieces of the story. I remember the journey through the mountains and stuff, but like, I didn't remember that part. I thought it was interesting that they kind of, before it ever occurred and they ever found out, oh yeah, he is Grace, they thought that he might be. So that was an interesting addition, essentially, to that story. And they didn't really know how his grace worked or how it would affect them, but that was kind of cool. In these next 100 pages, Katza discovers that her grace is not killing, it's survival, which I knew from the beginning. But it's interesting that she never noticed it. Like, she had to think about it, like, huh, can normal people do this? No. Huh, that's weird. Why can I do this? Why can I do that? Why am I gifted with these things? Like, this isn't supposed to be part of my grace, but obviously it was. And so Katza's grace was survival, which is an interesting grace to have because it gives the illusion that you can never necessarily die unless it's like an army of like 200 men coming to kill you, some like insane way, because you're just graced with the ability to survive. Interesting thought, interesting concept. As the story's going on, Poe's grace is evolving. He's now sensing animals and things around them, caves and rocks and all kinds of stuff, which I like that I saw before I did this Reread with me series. I did see a review of this book on BookTube, and I forget who it was that said that it was weird how Poe, at the end, you find out his grace is like something else entirely. I don't think it's weird at all because it's explained how it's evolving, and I won't give away the ending, even though if you're listening to this, it's a bunch of spoilers, so you probably already know the ending. But I want to read it before I talk about it. So yeah, it's shown in here that his grace is evolving. However, I did remember they never did address the greening portion of his name, so I have no clue why that was mentioned in the beginning, but it was never addressed. At least not yet, and I don't think it's going to be addressed in the next 150 pages, but we'll see. Anywho, let's talk about Lek again. So they're journeying through this forest, and they realize they want to be lovers, and like they're making love in caves and on the ground and stuff. And I guess Seabane, I don't know if that's supposed to keep her from getting pregnant, or if that's supposed to like not allow her to have a baby entirely. Like, I don't remember, but she's taking the Seabane, and she's like, yeah, we're doing it, but we're not having no babies, we're not getting married, we're just sleeping together. Okay. Sorry, that's my daughter in the background. Okay, so that's cool, whatever floats your boat, essentially. Now, Lek literally murders his wife in cold blood, shoots an arrow through her back, and Katza and Poe see this, and then Lek starts talking, and he's like, oh, what an awful, terrible accident, and Katza's like, it was an accident, wasn't it? And that's when they find out, oh my gosh, Lek is graced. Whatever he says, you'll automatically believe it, and other people that hear it, when they repeat it back to you, you'll automatically believe it. So you find out Lek is just this big lie. This big, huge, terrible, stinking lie. And it makes me mad because it's like, I'll get to that later. But anyway, he's this big lie. So basically, Katza and Poe have to run. And they have to run from Lek. They have to find Princess Bitterblue. Princess Bitterblue is like hardcore, man. This princess she's like 10, 11, I forget how old she is, and she's like hiding in a tree stump with a knife that's longer than her hand. It's interesting. She doesn't shed a tear when she finds out her mother's dead. Like, she's just like, I bet my father killed her, right? And they're like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And she just doesn't say anything, which is just amazing. Now she's freezing cold, and Katza and Poe have to wrap her in their jackets to keep her warm because she's no good if she freezes to death. Then they also have to feed her, so they're feeding her. They're like, dang, we're not gonna have much food left. Then we find out the truth about Lek from Bitterblue's perspective, which is that the only reason they realized what his grace was because he was trying to harm Bitterblue in some way. It's insinuated that it was gonna be like sexual or like abusive, but it's never said exactly how he wanted to harm her. It's just said that the mother saw through his grace because he was trying to hurt her daughter. Again, I hate Lek. I hate him. He sounds like a terrible person. He sounds like satanic almost. He's cutting up animals. He's trying to take his daughter and hurt her in some way that's not really described. And he kills his own wife in cold blood. And since we found out that he's got this grace, we also believe he killed the king and the queen before, and the advisors, and that he's killing children in the animal shelters. And so he's just this extremely terrible, bloodthirsty, for no reason, awful king. And all this time we thought that he was a good guy, and he's not. He's terrible. Like I said, I'm glad that sensitive topics can be included in fantasy books like this. However, it doesn't make it any less difficult to swallow. Like, it's frustrating and terrible to think that people are actually like this, even though this isn't a contemporary, this is a fantasy book. Like, Lek really is an example of some people, and I'm glad that Kristen Castro was able to depict that in this book, but I'm also really frustrated and angry, and I'm like, I want him dead. I mean, that's just me, honestly. No child should have to go through that, to lose their mother, killed by their father, for their father to take such interest in them. And the only way she's seeing through his grace is because she knows that he's hurting her mother. And she herself knows that her father has to be killed. Like, way too much. Way too much for a child to have to deal with. But that's not even, like, we're just getting into it. So, in these next 100 pages I read as well, Poe is like, I'm going to have to kill him because I'm the only one that knows he doesn't, his grace doesn't affect me. This is where it gets crazy, guys. This is where the action is like boom, boom, bam. Now, the action with, like, them running and finding Bitterblue and all that, that is also like boom, boom, bam. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I need more. But this is where the action, it kills me what happens next. So Poe is like, I'm gonna have to kill him. So then Bitterblue starts like, oh yeah, well, he's got an outer guard and an inner guard, and this is what you need to look out for, and his inner guard's all graced and blah blah blah. Okay, Poe's like, I got it. If I don't return by such and such a time, you take Bitterblue, you leave, you go get to Leonid, you get to my castle, you keep her safe until something can be done to Lek, and he gives her his ring that has the same symbol as his bands on his arm so that people will know to help her. And she's just a mess. And it's interesting because Katza is not a very emotional character. She's not really emotional at all until it comes to Poe and him leaving, and then she's just like an absolute mess, and she's trying not to show that she's a mess. At the same time, she's like staring into the woods like, when is Poe coming back? When is Poe coming back? When is he coming back? Still, she does what she's told and gets her things ready. So Poe comes back, right? How? This part was kind of confusing because his horse like ran him back, but he got shot with an arrow through his shoulder, and the horse apparently has a ton of arrows in its neck and body. So I'm wondering why this horse isn't dead. It's just, I really feel like the horse should have been dead. But regardless, that's a minor thing. So Poe gets back, the horse falls down into this lake, and Poe smashes his head. And I'm like, he's dead. Like, even though I know he's not dead because I read it before, in my mind, when I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, he should have been dead. Like, this is how he dies. This is it for him. No, he's not dead. So Katza's like, she's just, I can't even find the word for it. She's just lost. And she jumps into this lake, and this is where I feel bad for the horse because I wanted the horse to live too. Poor thing. Rest in peace, horse. So she jumps into this lake, she gets Poe, she's like, oh my gosh, Bitterblue, get the medicines, get the stuff. So Bitterblue's running around helping her, bandage Poe's arm up, he's vomiting everywhere because he smashed his head so hard. And she's like, she has to stop the bleeding, she has to keep him warm, she has to do all this stuff. She ends up taking a coat from Bitterblue that she had given to her to keep her warm, to put on him to keep him warm. And they also have to get moving because Lek is after them. So at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to read more, I need to find out more, I need to find out more, I need to find out more. Even though I've read it before, I still am just like, I need more. So basically, Katza is taking care of Poe, and Bitterblue is like a huge, huge help. Like, this child is she's on another level. Like, she's helping bandage him, she's helping get him off the horse, she's helping keep him safe, and all this other stuff. Of course, Katza had to tie him to the horse just to keep him on it. And it's really not helping him heal any better. And he's so delusional that he's like almost giving away his grace when his cousin has no clue. Now we get to the end of this 100 pages. And this is where my heart breaks, guys. I'm not going to cry, even though I feel like I'm going to cry. You'll learn I'm very emotional. I think it's because I had a baby and my hormones still have not evened out. Anyway, so Poe is like, you have to leave me behind because we're not going at the fast enough pace, and at this rate they'll find us, and our top priority is Bitterblue, because if Bitterblue passes or something happens to her, or if Lek finds us, all this was for nothing, and he'll be even more powerful because he'll have you. And Katz is like, no, and I'm not gonna cry, but she literally starts bawling and is like so upset because she knows he's right. She knows that Bitterblue is the priority and he's 100% right, and at one point she even looks at her and is like, if Poe has to be sacrificed for you, I really need to do better in taking care of you. You need to have the best thing. She's thinking about making her a coat. And the chapter that I just finished is her accepting that they're going to have to leave Poe behind. Him telling Bitterblue they're going to have to leave him behind. They're going to have to leave him behind, and he will meet them there. And we can only hope that he makes it, and we don't see how because he can't even walk. So Katz is like at a loss. And it is so sad, so depressing, and just downright friggin' frustrating because we fell in love with Poe in these, what page am I on? 318 pages. We fell in love with Poe, and Poe is like amazing, and he's like our everything as readers, and now they're leaving him behind, and it's just Katz. I know Katz is the main character, but Poe is a really, 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 really close second. Like, Poe could, I mean, I don't want to say Poe could be the main character, but we love Poe as much as we love Katza. So, at least I do. It breaks my heart that they have to leave him. And it's like, ugh, why did this have to happen? Even though I know what happens, I've read the book, I am still so upset and so frustrated because I'm like, all over freaking Lek. Like, Lek just needs to die. So, that is where I am, guys. And I am going to try and read this next like 150 pages in one fall swoop, and then I'll give you guys like my thoughts on it, and then I'll give you guys my last thoughts and review and rating of this book. But right now, that is where we are, and I will update you guys when we get further, or when I'm done with the book. I will update you guys again, and we'll go over my rating of this book and how I feel about it. But that is all for now.